Hey there, everybody, and welcome. Today I'm going to present a first floor playthrough of Burncycle, the new game by Chip Theory Games. Since we're all in the same boat, eagerly awaiting word from Quartermaster and starving for content, I thought I'd present my hugely preliminary Windows version of Burncycle. If you're a longtime fan of Chip Theory games, you might have downloaded or played or seen my Windows version of Too Many Bones that was made available for free several years back. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you already know that I love programming board games. Well, I decided to take the plunge and tackle Burncycle to see what I could do with it. And again, I'm going to stress that this is very much a pre-alpha version of the program. The art is, for the most part, non-existent. It's lacking functionality in key areas, and it's probably buggy as all get out. So with all those disclaimers out of the way, I figured I'd try to get through a first floor playthrough of a Mega Market sweep mission described in the How to Play book, but not follow the How to Play tutorial script. Instead, I'm just going to do my own thing here. First of all, I suspect many of you are already wondering where this is going, and you might be postulating if, like Too Many Bones for Windows, there's going to be a Burncycle for Windows at some point made publicly available down the road. And the answer is, I don't know. Who knows? It's anybody's guess, honestly. Like I said, this is very much an advanced preview of code that I cobbled together over the last few weeks. So I honestly don't know where this is going to be going and how long it might take. I'm expecting this to be a pretty painless mission, as the first floor of this mission in particular is fairly easy. I'll explain what's going on as I play through the game. It's not going to be an exhaustive tutorial, but it should give you a good feel as to what it's like playing the game. Clearly don't judge this floor's playthrough as an accurate measure of the average complexity of a particular game of Burncycle. I'm playing in standard difficulty, but like I said, this particular mission that I'm familiar with and the first floor of it is very, very easy. So this is not intended to be a complex mission by any stretch. It gets a little harder when you get to the second floor, and I suspect it gets even harder still when you get to the third floor. As in the How to Play book, I'm going to be still working with Byte and Access, with Bit in the role of the command module. Now I can see that Access was dealt the fast fingers imperative, which, as I recall, has something to do with, the next time your agent collects a cache during a movement action, you may not take any further actions that turn. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm going to go out of my way to collect a cache in this playthrough, so that might not come into play for Access. Anyway, now I'm being prompted to choose a free reserve allotment for Access, something you get to do when you're playing a two-agent game as opposed to a game with 3 or 4 players. If you're playing solo, you automatically gain all 3 of your possible reserve chips, which are shown down here with these icons. The icon to the left indicates your innate reserve allotment. So in this case, Access automatically gets 1 blue utility chip regardless of the number of players. So if I were playing solo today, I would actually start this game with a blue, 2 green chips, and a 1 purple physical chip. But since it's a 2-agent game, then I get to choose one of these 3 for Access. If we quickly take a look at Byte, I can see that she has the troll sequence imperative, which I think is the one she has in the actual script. It just randomly turned out that way. The next time your agent takes an optimized physical action, you do not get the optimized benefit of 2 access points. So we'll probably see that pretty quickly, I suspect. If you're not super familiar with the game, your imperative is something you can do. It's actually something you have to do when the circumstances warrant it. And you gain 1 or 2 power as shown on the card, maybe even as much as 3. I'm not sure about that. Alternatively, you always have the option to discard the imperative and not worry about it, but of course then you lose the same amount of power. So it usually pays to just bite the bullet and get the freebie power if you can. As usual, Byte was not prompted to choose a free reserve allotment in the way that Access is being asked, because she doesn't get to choose. If you look, all of her choices are the same for that extra reserve allotment. No matter what she chooses, she's going to get one blue utility chip. So no choice for Byte. As far as Access is concerned, between the physical and the tech, I think I'm going to go with the physical chip. Okay, so you can see that this option now has been marked off, and I got that for free. Normally this costs 2 power to get a chip in your reserve. Now it's time to route power. Agents start the game with 10 power, but in the case of Access, I have to use up at least 2 of that power to meet its power limit of 8. Which it's hard to see with this fuzzy card image, but there's an 8 right up here in the corner. As with the how to play walkthrough script, I'm definitely going to bump up the burn cycle by 1 slot so that each of the agents can perform as many as 3 actions on their turns instead of only 2. As you can see, Bit, when she is the command module, defaults to 2 burn cycle actions. This is going to be a command module enhancement, adding this 3rd burn cycle slot. So the cost of adding the slot can be shared among all the players. And in this instance, the cost is 3 power. Since Access is requesting this enhancement, then Access has to contribute at least 1 of that 3 power. But if she doesn't, that's an option, then the command module has to pay Access's portion of the cost, at the very least, that first power. Actually, I think I'm going to have Access pay none of the cost, truthfully, which means Bit will be forced to contribute at least 1 power. So let me click this. I'm going to say 0 power for Access. Now Byte starts off with 10 power, but she has to get down to 4 power. I think I'm going to actually have Bit shoulder the burden of this enhancement. I'll have Byte pay for 1 power because we have a long way to go to get from 10 to 4. So I'll have Byte pay 1 power, but then Bit's going to pay the rest. So she paid 2 power, dropping her power rating from 6 to 4. I may be living a little dangerously here, but since this is the first floor objective and it's an easy one, Bit most likely is going to be a follower. She's not a leader. I think I can easily risk it. Of course, if Bit's power does fall to 0, it's game over, but I really don't expect that to happen. I'll keep Bit out of danger for this first mission, and there's not going to be a lot of danger to be had. So now that we have 3 burn cycle slots available to us, which really feels to me like a minimum number you should have to be anywhere near productive, I did route some power there, but I didn't route any of the power that I need to for Access. Remember, I need to get Access down to 8 before we start the game. I'll start by installing 1 advanced yellow die, which was in the script. It's kind of an obvious enhancement to get right off the bat. That costs 2 power, so that'll drop Access's power from 10 to 8. And let me just take a look at her skills. I don't have to do this because I now have Access power at 8, which is at the very least where it needs to be. But I actually think I'm going to get this reassign skill. So when Access is accessing a keypad action, if she needs to resolve a tech, a physical, or a utility input on a keypad card, it can be ignored if there's a matching chip of that type on the burn cycle, in a burn cycle slot. Now, when you start the game, you're going to randomly start with 2 general chips and a captain chip, randomly shuffled and then deposited into these slots. So there won't be any of the better chips in the burn cycle slot until I actually put them there. And I probably won't do that until one of these slots gets degraded. You'll see how all that happens as I play the game. But I think I am going to get this reassigned. I'm not sure if it's going to come in handy, but it's only 2 power. It'll drop access down to 6 power, but I think it might be worthy to have. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay, I think that's it for access. I'm done with her. Now I have to route power for Byte. Remember, she paid 1 of the power that it cost to enable the 3rd burn cycle slot, so she's already at 9. She started at 10, but we need to get her all the way down to 4. Clearly, we're going to give her an advanced die as well. I'll talk more about the dice in a moment. So now that gets her down to 7. There are these universal skills that only cost 1 power to enable. Swap, which allows you to swap positions with another bot if you're adjacent to them. Push, which allows you to push a guard chip out of the way to an adjacent space. And repair, which allows you to transfer energy or power to a bot that might be in need of it. Because as I said, if bit falls to 0, game over. But if an agent falls to 0, then the agent is shut down, the bot's shut down, but you can possibly repair it at some point during the game by giving another bot a repair ability and having them perform that repair ability to transfer some of their power to the shutdown bot. Silent entry was the one that was enabled in the script. Actually, this is a little expensive. It costs 3, but it's going to get me down to 4 power from 7. And I like the sound of this. Byte may choose to not be detected by security units during her movement actions, but only during her movement actions. Okay, so that should do it for Byte. I don't want to go any lower than 4, so we're going to stop right there. There's the random order of the burn cycle chips, 2 generals, and then the captain chip in the 3rd slot, which is kind of unfortunate because it means it's tougher to get rid of this chip, and you'll see why we want to do this, and you'll see how you get rid of it, how it degrades later on in this video. Finally, as part of setup, I have to choose the starting spaces for my bots. They have to start the first floor in one of these outdoor spaces that are in dark gray along the edge here. And as with the tutorial, I'm going to put bit down here in the corner on this blue icon. That means that 1 blue utility chip is going to be added into the team's reserve, bit's reserve allotment, if you want to think of it that way. So that means everybody will have access to that chip. So bit's going to go there, and now we have 1 more chip available to us to upgrade the burn cycle. Now I have to choose an outdoor space for access. I'm going to let access be bit's bodyguard. So I'm going to put access down here on the green space. Now we have a tech chip in the team reserve. And then finally, Byte's going to go way up here in the corner on the purple icon, so we'll have 1 of each in the team reserve. And that is complete setup, so now we're getting the game underway here. As you can see here, you can always choose to route power at the start of a turn, but you'd normally skip this step on your first turn of the game since you just routed power during setup. So I'm going to just click done and move along here. And access was randomly chosen to be the first player, so the start player. So she's going to choose her actions first. So like I said before, for each chip in the burn cycle, it's not degraded, she's going to be able to perform 1 action. So she's going to have 3 actions that her turn's going to consist of. First of all, I guess before we even get started, what's the objective for the first floor? If you haven't read the How to Play book, it's Operation Mega Market Sweep. And the objective for the first floor is that 1 bot has to access a terminal. Now, if we were playing with 3 or 4 agents, a 3 or 4 player game, then 2 bots would have to access a terminal. If we were to play out the second floor, each bot, including bit, because Bit is a bot. She's not an agent, she's a bot. Each bot has to collect a cache. And then on the third floor, if we were to get that far, the command module Bit has to enter the executive office on the third floor. Once you accomplish these floor objectives, then each agent collects 3 power, as shown here. That does not include the command module Bit. She's not an agent. So we have to access a terminal to complete the first floor's objective, and then once we do that, we then need to get all bots into safe zones. Those are these zones that are outlined in yellow. And once the bots are in their safe zones, then we can move on to the second floor. There is a terminal in the lobby, and I can have access come this way and get through this door. All the doors are locked except for these safe room doors. They are open, and they're unlocked because Bit has a special ability called Safe Zone Cracker. Doors to safe zones are always unlocked. There's also a terminal up here in the security room, so I can see the name of the room here by looking at the info bar on the tile. These are all neoprene tiles laid over this one large floor plan grid. In the security room, there is a terminal here. These are cache chips, by the way. These are terminal chips. You can have Byte break in to this door, unlock it, and get a terminal that way. Now we know that there's a guard already deployed here. There's a little asterisk. I'm hiding it temporarily, and you can see on the floor plan there's a little asterisk there that indicates that this guard is mandatory. It has to be set up at the beginning of the game. And this guard does nothing. It just it's sitting at a workstation here. There's a little desk here. That's why it's pointing toward the wall. Its back is to the rest of the security room. And it's just going to kind of hang out there. It's not going to do anything, and it won't do anything unless somebody enters the security room that shouldn't be there. There are also 2 floor guards deployed. This one's carrying a key. It's a task drone. This task drone has a looking ahead range, if you will, of 8, meaning currently it's facing east, so it can look ahead 8 spaces. Well, there's a wall here, so it can't look beyond that. But it also has a peripheral awareness of half of 8, 4. So it can see within 4 orthogonally adjacent spaces in its area. This room, the safe room, those are not part of the guard's area. So frankly, even if this guard were here and there was a bot in here, the guard would not be aware of the bot in the safe room. One, because it's safe. Not only that, a guard here cannot look into another area. It's only aware of other things that are within its immediate area. Now, this guard has a key chip under it, so it's carrying a key. So guards with keys carry those keys when they move. The key chip goes with it. If we look here, there's a number 1 here. That simply means that this was the first guard to be deployed during setup. Over here, there's a number 3. That turned out to be a walker facing south. You can see that on the floor plan, it's supposed to face south. These are all level 1 guards, the easiest of the guards. There's level 1, level 2, level 3 that generally go along the lines of the floors. So for the most part, you see level 1 guards in floor 1, level 2 guards on the second floor, and level 3, the tougher guards, along with the captain on the 3rd floor. Speaking of the captain's usually randomly assigned, but for this mission, as in the How to Play book, we're going to be playing with Crucible as the captain. If you look at Crucible's security detail, this is the 1st floor. In the 1st position, there is a level 1 guard that is randomly assigned with a key. So we got a task drone there. There's also There's also a level 1 guard deployed in position 3. So that was this guy in position 3. But you can see that no guard is deployed in position 2, which is why this space is empty. So I did mention there's this bulldog here sitting randomly assigned to this desk position. Not only do you assign guards that are indicated in the security detail of the captain card, but you also assign guards into any position that has an asterisk in it, which is this one, and it shows a mandatory guard facing the wall. That was a lot of preamble. Since Access was chosen randomly to go first, then I'm going to have her start by performing a move action in order to get herself over by the door. So we only have limited intel on what guards are deployed in here. We won't know about any other guards until we actually have a bot enter the room. There's the possibility that one guard will be deployed. There's a chance that there are no guards in the lobby. We won't know until we hack in. We're going to start with a move action. And now I have to select and roll some dice in order to determine how much movement I get. You get one blue basic die for each of the power that you have at the start of your turn. So the Access has 6 power. She gets 6 basic blue dice. Basic blue dice have 2 blank sides, 3 sides with a 1, and 1 side with a 2. Access also starts with 1 yellow advanced die. That's because she spent 2 power to get it. Yellow advanced dice have 2 sides with a 1, 3 sides with a 2, and 1 side with a 3. And if you get into the red elite dice, which we might at some point during this playthrough, red dice have 4 sides with a 2 and 2 sides with a 3. But 2 of the sides that show a 2 and 1 of the sides that show a 3 also have a reroll icon on them. So if you get a 2 with a reroll icon, you get to reroll any 1 die of your choice. And if you reroll the red die and get another reroll icon, you get to do it again. These 7 dice are all the dice that Access has to work with over the course of the 3 actions that she can perform during her turn in the action phase. So if I roll 1 die, the odds are I'm going to get a 1, or odds are very good that I'm going to get a 0 or 1, a blank or 1. So that's not going to cut it. If I roll 2 of these dice, odds are that I'll probably get 2 points of movement, 2 action points. But if I roll 2 blanks, or a blank and a 1, I'm only going to get 1 point of movement. So that's even cutting it a little close. I think the safer bet is to roll 3 blue action dice. Unless I really roll poorly, that should pretty much guarantee that I'm going to get at least 2 points of movement to get access from here over to here. You might ask, why didn't I start here? I didn't start in this space because I wanted to get that free team reserve allotment at the beginning of the game during setup. If you roll 2 or more blanks, then you do have the option of converting those 2 blanks into a single die with a 1 result on it. Any dice that you use, including 2 blanks that you convert into a 1, are lost and returned to the supply. But any blanks that you don't use goes back to my supply. I don't lose that die. Now, I do actually have one other option. So I could, as a free action, move a physical chip, like from my personal reserve or from the team reserve, put it in the first slot of the burn cycle. That would have made this an optimized move action, granting me 2 points of movement, and I wouldn't have to roll the dice at all in that case. And given that I did assign this reassign skill to Access, it kind of makes sense to do that because it makes keypad hacking a little bit easier when you're trying to unlock a door. Anyway, there are lots of choices here for dice. I'm just going to go with the 3 basic dice and hope that I roll at least 2 action points of movement. Remember, if I get 2 blanks, I can convert those 2 blanks into a 1. So even if I roll a 1 and 2 blanks, I still get 2 points of movement out of that, 2 action points. Oh, I did a little better than I expected. I ended up with 3 action points. So I can move Access over here with 2 of those action points. And with the extra, the leftover action point I have, I can move Bit 1 space. Bit does not get a turn. The command module doesn't get a turn. So if you want her to move or to take actions, then the agents have to do that on her behalf. So I'm going to have Access use her leftover action point and move bit to this space here, getting her a little closer to the door. That moves the tracker bead on the burn cycle to the second action slot. So now we're performing the second action for Access, and this is going to be a keypad action. That would be optimized if I had a blue utility chip in this position. I could transfer a utility chip from my personal reserve or from the team reserve into this burn cycle slot to make this keypad action that I'm about to take optimized, which gives me a little bonus. But I think I'm going to hold off. It's still early in the game. Okay, so I've paused. This is what a keypad card looks like. This is the first floor, and it shows a die icon here. That means you roll the keypad die to see what icon would normally go in this position. If we were on the second floor and we were using this keypad, we wouldn't need to provide a blue utility icon somehow. But we got the die icon and therefore had to roll the keypad die. So I'm going to unpause and let it continue rolling so we can see what turns up. If this were the side that turned up, this is a shock, which means that the agent who's trying to hack in would get shocked and would lose 1 power. But I'm going to unpause and let it resolve. Oh, well, we got lucky. We got an unlock, which automatically unlocks the door. A 1 in 6 chance, so I'm not going to complain about that. So the door is now safely unlocked. We didn't lose any chips. We didn't have to do anything. We got lucky when we rolled that die. And the keypad card goes away because it's been successfully resolved. If we didn't unlock the door for one reason or another, then the keypad card would have stayed on the board, and if we tried the keypad action again, we'd still have to resolve that same keypad card. We could have used brute force to break in if we hadn't rolled that unlock die. Brute force on the first floor involves rolling dice and getting at least 4 action points in order to break open the door. If an icon turned up on the die, or there was an icon on the keypad card, like a physical icon or a tech icon or a utility icon, then the easiest way to resolve that is by surrendering one of the chips in your personal reserve or in the team reserve. Or another way to resolve a keypad physical, tech, or utility icon is if there is a matching chip in a burn cycle slot over to the right, then you can resolve the keypad icon by moving your tracker bead to that position. But what you're doing is you're giving up potential actions that you otherwise might be able to take. Anyhow, we get to step through the doorway as a free action when you unlock a keypad or unlock a door. So we're going to be able to move into this room. Now, the lobby shows a single surveillance die in its info bar. That means that, as I indicated earlier, we're going to roll a surveillance die, and there is a chance that a guard's going to show up in this position over here. So we're going to step through, and when you first enter a room, you have to roll the number of dice shown on the info bar. That's 1, and we're going to see what happens. Chances are we're going to end up with a guard. Oh man. Okay, so everything's going our way today. We didn't get a guard. We got a result that called convert to mainframe, which takes this terminal and flips it and makes it a mainframe chip, which is essentially a better version of a terminal. And you'll see why later when we get access over to this space and perform a terminal action, which is what our first floor objective happens to be. But that's a great result. So far, this easy first floor mission is turning into a cakewalk for us. Let's unpause and resolve that. So the chip has been flipped, and now there's a mainframe sitting here. Oh, and guards started moving. That's because the third slot in the burn cycle is the captain chip. When your tracker bead gets to that position on the burn cycle, then you resolve the action shown on the captain card. Now, if we take another look at Crucible, you can see it says here, move each security unit 1 space in the direction they currently face. So that's why this guard moved with its key 1 space to the right, and this guard, the walker, moved one space south, one space down. For Access's third and final action in the action phase, she's going to move toward the mainframe over here in the corner. Since it's her last action, she can safely roll all of her remaining dice. My program actually knows that, so if I click move, all these dice get now selected, and hopefully we're going to get at least 4 points of movement, which is what we need to get to this mainframe. I think the odds are probably pretty good that that's going to be the case. So we got a 5, which is more than enough. It's going to leave us with 1 extra action point, so we'll be able to move bit a little bit further. So we'll get access over here to the mainframe. That uses up 4 of the 5 action points. And now we'll get to move bit 1 more space. And that ends the action phase. That moves us into the network phase of Access's turn, because not only do you move around and try to evade capture in the physical world when you're playing burncycle, you also have to remain stealthy in the electronic world on the network. Each undegraded chip in a burncycle slot is going to let us move our IP marker, which starts over here in Access's access point, her home base, if you will. And for each one of these chips in the burncycle, we're going to be able to get 1 point of movement in the network. If and when we move better chips into these burncycle slots, we'll be able to move farther in the network. So for this first burncycle slot, we get 1 point of movement. The only thing Access can do is move our IP from its access point, transfer into layer 1, this outer ring of the network. Now for the second burncycle turn, she gets 1 more point of movement. This is going to get her to a hub. All these red nodes are called hubs. And when you encounter a hub on the outer ring, layer 1, you get to increase your network level by 1. That's this die right here. So it's going to bump up from the default setting for Access of 1, and it's going to become 2. If you were to encounter a hub on the second ring, then you get to reduce the threat level by 1. We'll see more about threat later on. If you encounter a hub on the third layer, the third ring of the network, you get to gain 1 power. And finally, if you get to the inner layer, the fourth layer, and you reach the core, which is this hub here, you get to do all 3 of those things. You increase your network level by 1, you reduce threat by 1, and you gain 1 power. For this second burncycle action, during the network phase, we get to do 1 more point of movement, so we're going to increase our network level by 1. So now we're at 2. And finally, for the captain chip, we get 1 more node of movement in the network. And now we have a choice. We could continue moving clockwise, or we could transfer in. Since there are no enemy pings in the vicinity, those are the enemies you're trying to avoid when you're in the network. I think I can safely transfer into this node here. And that ends the network phase. We're nearing the end of Access's turn. She can route power again. She might want to do that if she gains some power over the course of her turn. She didn't. She's still sitting on 6 power, so I'm not going to make any more changes for the moment. The last part of Access's turn is the burncycle degrade step. So we're going to roll the burncycle die, which has 5 sides showing a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, and a 6th side showing a question mark. And that's going to indicate which of these burncycle chips is going to degrade. That means that unless we do something on Byte's turn, Byte is only going to have 2 actions that she'll be able to take, because one of these chips is going to be degraded. If we roll a 1, then this chip is going to go. If we roll a 2, this chip will be degraded. If we roll a 3, the captain chip will be degraded. Yay! We won't have to see the guards move any longer. If we happen to roll a 4 or a 5, we would simply wrap around and degrade this chip in the first slot. Anyway, let's click done, and that's going to roll the burncycle die, and we'll see which one of these chips degrades. We got a 1, so the first chip in the burncycle Degrade. Now we're in a step of Byte's turn where she can route power. Once again, because she routed power during setup, there's really no need to route power again at the start of her first turn. There was a message, by the way, that popped up before this that said, do you want to reboot the burn cycle? And kind of went away because more often than not, you don't want to reboot the burn cycle. When you reboot the burn cycle, then you basically wipe off all the chips. You surrender all the chips in your reserve, and you dole them back out based on whatever options you have selected down here. Why would you want to reboot the burn cycle and reinitialize it? You'd do that if you were really running low on chips and didn't have chips to upgrade the burn cycle, and therefore you had very few actions that each bot could take. So you don't want to wait too long, but you don't want to reboot the burn cycle too early either. Right now, we have plenty of chips at our disposal, so we're not going to be rebooting the burn cycle anytime soon, that's for sure. Now, if Byte doesn't want to lose this first action of her turn, due to the fact that this general chip has been degraded, then we need to, as a free action, move a chip into that reserve, either from Byte's personal reserve or from the team reserve. Now we know for her to get access into the board, she needs to open either this door to get into the corridor or this door to break into the security room. Considering the fact that Access has already gained access to the lobby, there are no guards in there, and lo and behold, we got a mainframe chip up here, then there's really no dire need now to move Byte down here to get into the security room. We really only need to get her into the hallway here. If I click done on the route power step, we'll initialize our action dice. So you can see we have one basic blue die for each one of Byte's power. So four dice, plus the one yellow advanced die that she purchased, for a total of 5 dice to choose from over the course of these 2 actions that Byte is going to be able to take, unless we upgrade this chip. So as a free action, we can move a chip from Byte's personal reserve or from the team reserve into the first burn cycle slot, so it's not wasted. I think we're going to move one of Byte's, I think we'll move her physical chip there. So as a free action, this is going to replace the degraded chip in the first slot. So now we can take an optimized move or strike action, because both of those are physical actions. A strike action involves attacking a guard or striking a guard or trying to break it through a wall. So normally Byte would be able to use this physical chip, perform a move action, and automatically get 2 free action points to work with, in addition to whatever dice she decided to roll. But remember that she has this troll sequence imperative that says the next time your agent takes an optimized physical action, you do not get the optimized benefit. So either we discard troll sequence and lose 1 power, or we let this imperative click in and not get the benefit of the physical chip that we just moved in there. And like I said earlier, generally that's what you want to do, because gaining power is always a nice thing. So in this case, we're going to gain 1 power by fulfilling that imperative. We're going to take a move action. We don't get the 2 free action points. We need 1 point of movement to get Byte down here to the door. 1 die should be able to cut it, I think. I do have a 1/3 chance of rolling a blank. So I think I'm going to go with 2 basic dice here. Remember, if I get 2 blanks, I can convert those 2 blanks into a 1. But not only that, Byte has an innate ability called Tumble Magnet that says when taking any action, Byte may change the result of 1 rolled action die to match the result of another rolled action die before resolving a roll. If I rolled a 1 and a blank, I could turn the blank into a 1, or if I rolled a 2 and a blank, I could convert the blank into a 2. There's no way I can't not get 1 action point here. I got 2 1s, so I have 2 action points, which means I could use the leftover for bit. So with the 1 action point, I'm going to move Byte down to the door. That fulfills the troll sequence imperative, which gets me 1 power. and the imperative now goes away. The leftover action point, I can move Bit a little closer to the door here, and that's the first action for Byte. For Byte's second action, like access, she is going to perform a keypad action to try and open this door. I'm going to pause, and you can see on the first floor there's a physical icon, which means in order to resolve this, we either need to discard a physical chip from our personal reserve or from the team reserve, or you can move the tracker on the burn cycle to a physical chip that's later in the burn cycle. We don't have a physical chip to the right of where the tracker beat happens to be, so that's not a choice. Our only choice is to discard the one and only physical chip we have access to right now. We can't even use brute force because this keypad is jammed on this level. If we were out of physical chips, then we would have been out of luck and Byte would have had to find another way in. But fortunately we do have it, so let me unpause. I'm going to respond with yes, so that's going to unlock the door for us, but we will now be out of physical chips. Once again, as a free action, we can step through the door into the hallway. Remember, this guard has peripheral awareness of 4, but only in the area that the guard occupies. So she can see this area, but she can't see into this area, the outdoor area. But as soon as Byte enters the hallway, she would be detected by this guard. But, if you recall, we did enable Byte's distortion cloak, which says that she may choose to not be detected by security units during her movement actions. She is getting a free step into the doorway. That's not technically part of her movement action, so this is a bug. To be fair, I'm going to click no. She is detected by the guard. And once again, we hit the captain chip, so all the guards then moved one step in the direction they're facing. Even this guard that has detected the fact that there is a hostile in the area, but she'll react to that during the corporation's turn, which will happen at the end of Byte's turn. In the meantime, Byte has been detected, and her awareness chip has been placed under her. When you're playing the game, typically you put the awareness chip on top of the bot. Here, the red icon I display indicates that there is an awareness chip that Byte is sitting on, her own. Byte does have one more action, and it's going to be a move action. It's her last action, and therefore she's going to roll all 3 of her dice. Hopefully she'll have 3 points of movement that will get her into this safe room. Normally, Byte entering a room in the awareness range of a guard means that the guard knows that she went into the room. The awareness chip follows her into the first step through the doorway. Because this is a safe room, that rule doesn't apply, so Byte's awareness chip is going to remain out here. This guard has the demerit skill. Normally when a guard attacks a bot, when it becomes adjacent to it during the corporation turn, it just reduces the bot's power by 1. But the demerit ability means that instead you increase the threat by 1. Okay, I rolled 2 blanks and a 2. Remember, Byte can use tumble magnet to change one die to match the result of another die. If this yellow die had become a 3, I wouldn't have been able to match it because there's no 3 on a face of a blue die. But fortunately, I got a 2, so I can turn one of these blanks into a 2. That allows me to move Byte into the safe zone. She's been detected. I'm going to enable the distortion cloak to prevent the level 1 task drone from detecting her as she moves. So Byte safely makes it into the safe zone, and her awareness chip stays over on this space over here because that was the last point at which the task drone was aware of her. There's one more point of movement. We're going to move Bit into the lobby. Now it's time for the network phase. Notice that although it looks like this elevator is part of the security room, it actually has walls around it, so it's considered a separate area. That's why we didn't roll the surveillance dice for the security room. That would only have happened if she broke through this door and stepped in, or this door and stepped in. The fact that we have Byte in a safe zone means that she is now protected. She cannot be detected. Guards don't know that she's in there. And I put her there because, frankly, this first floor mission is going to be pretty easy, especially given that we have this mainframe over here. We didn't encounter a guard. By the time we're ready to move access and bid over to the security room, we'll be safe and not have to worry about this walker. We're on the network phase. We have a physical chip in the first slot of the burn cycle, so we can move to the first physical node on the network, or a hub. And there is a bug here. Byte's peg is missing from her access point. I think the program probably knows that she's there, but for one reason or another, it's not displaying it. We'll find out as soon as we tell her to move to this hub. Yeah, it's there. It just wasn't being displayed properly, so I'll have to fix that bug. But we got to this hub, which increased her network level by 1, so now she's at 2. The network level comes into play if and when you encounter a ping, either because you move to where a ping is on the network, or the ping moves into you when it's moving. The 4 pings that the corporation owns are currently not in the network. They're up here in their access points, but during the corporation phase, at least one of them is going to make an appearance. Now we're in the second step of the burn cycle, a general chip, so she can only move 1 space, so that means she has to move here. And now for the last chip, the captain chip, she gets to move one node. So she could either move to this node, or she could transfer into this node. I am going to have her transfer into the second layer. By the way, when an IP marker is moving on the network, if it encounters another player's IP, it just ignores it and skips over that space. Byte now has the option of routing power. She did gain 1 power during that turn thanks to her imperative. If I don't make use of it, she's going to lose it. During this route power step, if you don't get your power down to your limit, then you lose whatever the difference happens to be. And I think I'm going to spend 2 of the 5 power for another physical chip. Byte's power is now down to 3. But remember, access is close to completing the mission over here, and when that happens, both access and Byte will gain 3 power. Finally, it's the degrade burn cycle step of Byte's turn, so she's going to roll the burn cycle die. Okay, yay, we rolled a 3, which means goodbye captainship. We don't have to worry about the guards moving during that step of the burn cycle any longer, at least not until we reboot the burn cycle. As soon as I unpause, this chip is going to degrade, the captain chip, and it'll flip to its other side. And then it's going to be the corporation's turn. Any guards that have bots that are within their awareness range, those bots are pursued by the guards. So the guards target the nearest bot and move toward it using their movement stat. If a guard becomes adjacent to a bot, it attacks it during this step and reduces its power by 1, or increases threat in the case of the demerit ability. There are no bots on the board that are within the awareness range of any guards. In the second step, guards target any awareness chips that are on the board. There is going to be an investigation, because Byte's awareness chip is sitting over here, and this guard is the nearest guard, so it is going to move toward this chip. It's got a movement stat of 3, and it's going to clear that awareness chip from the board. In step 3, guards that haven't done anything so far in the corporation turn follow their patrol. This guard will have already responded to this awareness chip. It's not going to move on its patrol. It's just going to move once during the corporation turn and remain here. But this guard will go on its perimeter patrol. And perimeter patrol means, if you're in a maze and you're lost, just put your hand on the right wall, keep walking, and you'll always find the exit to the maze. That's what's going to happen when this walker goes on its perimeter patrol pattern. It's going to move and keep a wall or a surface to its right. So its movement status 4, it's currently facing south, which is the direction it wants to face, because the perimeter patrol happens in a counterclockwise direction. Because it has a movement stat of 4, it's going to stop here. but when it continues moving in another corporation turn, if it's not responding to an awareness chip or a bot, it's going to continue moving this way and down and around. During the fourth step of the corporation turn, something happens with the corporate pings, so we'll see that when we get there. In step 5, your threat increases equal to the number of agents in the game. Anyhow, I'm going to unpause. Hopefully everything's going to work the way it's supposed to. The chip gets degraded. That guard targets the awareness chip, clears it from the board. That guard patrols. Okay, so now we're at the fourth step of the corporation turn, during which it moves the pings on the network up to 3 spaces, or to another ping, or to another hub. And I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail here, but suffice to say, there are currently no pings in the network, so it's going to take one ping and move it into the core, this hub in the inner layer. And then roll the ping die a number of times equal to the number of pings that are on hubs. Well, there's only going to be one ping on one hub, so we're only going to roll the ping die once, and we're going to do whatever it says. In this case, we increase threat by 1, and because we also increase threat by 2 at the end of the corporation turn, we're going to see an increase of 3. So let me bring the threat meter back. Let's let that resolve, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the threat track. So there's our 1, there's our additional 2 threat, and now we're at threat of 3, and we're back to Access's turn. Let me go back to the threat meter. So we're sitting here on the third step of the threat track. If and when we get to the fourth step, this is a threat event. In this case, the CEO adds 2 pings to the core and then activates all the pings in the network. When a threat event happens, you also move a separate tracker bead onto this threat event, so that in the event that your threat decreases, then increases again, you will never resolve this threat event a second time. If and when the threat increased to 6, we'd have remote spin down, which causes the first burn cycle slot to completely deactivate, meaning this peg would go away, and we would have to route power in order to get it back. Later on, once we get to a threat of 8, in this case, level 1 doors turn into level 2 doors. Okay, it is round 2, and Access's turn again. Access is about to complete the first floor objective. Since I know that Access is about to gain 3 power, I'm going to spend that in arrears. So I'm going to route 2 power to convert a yellow advanced die into a red elite die. When you create a red elite die, you have 2 choices. You either pay 4 power, or you pay 2 power to trade in one of your advanced dice that you purchased earlier and trade it in for an elite die. You get all the power back that you spent on the yellow die, and you just have to pay the 2 additional power to make up the cost of the red die. That leaves Access with 4 remaining power. I'm just thinking ahead here. Actually, I'm going to give Access swap ability. I'm now done. I'm going to move into the first of Access's 3 actions. And as part of my plan, I'm going to take this tech chip in the team reserve and move it into the second burn cycle slot. The terminal action is a tech action, so it's optimized if you take it when the burn tracker is pointing to a tech chip. I think I'm going to stall, and instead of performing the terminal action now, I'm going to perform a move action. Because it's optimized, I get 2 action points as a bonus. I'm going to cancel and not roll the dice. And I'm going to use those 2 points of movement to move bit this way. Now, I probably didn't need to do that, but I wanted to stall for time because I wanted this terminal action to be optimized. And by giving the swap ability to Access, I don't have to worry about bit blocking the doorway. Although I could have bit unlock the door and just move, but there's a narrow corridor here, and if I wanted access to move ahead a bit as protection, so to speak, then I'd need to get bit out of the way. Our second action is going to be a terminal action. That's what we want to do in order to complete the objective for this floor. When you perform a terminal action, you draw one terminal card from the deck. A terminal card has 3 effects on it, each with associated action point costs. Normally, you choose one of those effects, you roll some dice in order to meet the cost of the effect that you chose. However, we're taking an optimized terminal action, so the bonus is that instead of choosing one effect on the terminal card, you get to choose 2 effects and carry those 2 effects out if you roll enough action points on your dice. But wait, there's more. This is a mainframe, not a terminal. When you resolve a terminal action on a mainframe, you can ignore all the costs on the terminal card and not have to roll any dice. You pick one effect if it's not optimized and you carry it out. You pick 2 effects if it is an optimized terminal action and carry both of those effects out without having to pay the cost. But wait, there's more. Access has an innate ability called multi-use command. After taking a terminal action, if Access didn't select the terminal card's bottom option, she may gain its benefit at no cost. So this is crazy. It's almost unheard of, but we're going to be able to draw a terminal card, perform all 3 of its effects, and not have to roll any dice or spend any action points to do it. We're going to perform a terminal action. These are the 3 effects on the card we have. We have data metering, move 2 pings to the nodes of your choice on layer 4 of the network, and boot any remaining pings. Well, that doesn't really help us, because if you remember, only 1 ping is on the network, and it is already on layer 4. So unfortunately, that effect doesn't pay off for us. Normally, it would cost 5 action points. For us, it's free. Cycle lockdown protocol, unlock a door of your choice. Can't beat that. We'd use it to unlock this door down here and not have to worry about resolving a keypad action. That's great. Oh, perfect. Lastly, all-purpose port, draw a mod card. Okay. Not sure we'll be able to make use of it, at least on the first floor, but none of these costs are going to apply to us. So it's the best of all worlds. Now remember, I don't want to choose the 3rd effect to make use of Access's innate ability. I'm going to choose move 2 pings and unlock a door. Which terminal effect do you want to resolve first? I will unlock a door, and I'll unlock this door down here. Okay, to resolve move 2 pings, I'm just going to say no. There's no benefit to resolving it. And then we get a free mod, and we've completed the first floor objective, so all the agents just gained 3 power. Access is back up to 6, and Byte is now sitting on a healthy 7 power. And now we're in the 3rd step of the burn cycle. If we wanted to perform an action here, we have to put a chip there. What I want to do now is move to the service elevator. So I'm going to put my last remaining physical chip in the 3rd burn cycle slot, so we get 2 free points of movement. Now I'm going to perform a move action. There's our 2 free action points. I'm going to roll all of our dice. We should have more than enough to get access to the service elevator. See, there's a reroll icon on this red die. Actually, if I reroll the 1, I have a 1 in 3 chance of getting a blank. I think I'm going to reroll the red die and hope for a 3. No, I got a 3. Wow, everything's going our way here. So we've got 10 action points of movement. And what do we need for access? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have just enough to get access all the way into the service elevator. I don't want to put it on automatic because I don't want it to trace a path that gets close to this walker because the walker would then become aware of it, of access. So I'm going to be careful here. I'm going to start by moving access to this space. It has her swap ability, so she'll move right past Bit, and this should cost 5 points of movement to get this far. Ooh, Bit was closer, so it moved Bit before access. Let me go back and actually click and drag access here to make sure that works the way it did. It does. So it came down here, it swapped places with Bit, so now Bit's up here. I'm going to tell Byte to move this way so it moves straight and avoids detection from this walker, and now I can safely move it into the service elevator with the remaining 3 action points. Now it's time for Access's network phase. The first chip in the burn cycle is physical. Access is here. Her only option is to move to the next physical node on the network, which is here. Then we have a tech chip, so she either moves to the nearest tech chip or to the nearest hub, whichever comes first. She has no way of transferring in, so she has to stop at this hub, but she'll reduce threat by 1. Finally, for her last movement on the network, we got another physical chip, so she could either move clockwise or she could transfer in. This ping is in the 4th layer. I think we're still safe for the moment, so I'm going to transfer in and move access to this physical node here. I don't think I need to route power at this point. Now we're going to degrade the burn cycle. We got a 3. The 3rd slot of the burn cycle is degraded, so now we're back down to 2. But still no need to reboot the burn cycle. It's now Byte's turn. Byte probably should route power here. So to get back down to her limit of 4, she doesn't have to. She doesn't lose that power until the end of her turn at the 2nd route power step. I'm going to change this advanced die into a red elite die and spend 2 power to do it. And you know what? I'm going to give ourselves another utility chip to play with. First action, physical action. We clearly want to move and get Bit up into the service elevator. This is going to be an optimized move action. So we have built-in 2 action points, and we're just going to go for broke here and roll all of Byte's dice and hope we get enough to get Bit up into the service elevator. We got 4 2s. That's a total of 10 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, just enough. So we're going to move Bit into the service elevator with these 10 action points, and that is going to end the first floor part of the mission and transport us into the 2nd floor. We're on the 2nd floor, and we do have the option to rearrange any bots that might be in the service elevator, just in case a change in start player caused a bot to get blocked in. I'm going to put access. Well, I don't want to go in this way because there are 2 guards in the floor up here. So I'm going to put access here by that door. Notice Byte is still over in this single room elevator, so we didn't have to worry about her. Bit, I will move over here into this spot on the service elevator. I'm pretty thankful my program didn't crash. It seemed to work pretty well. Like I said, I still have a lot of work to do, but so far I like what I see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this playthrough. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, please comment below. As always, I'd appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.